before we talk about the Ralph Yarl situation, I'll let you guys know right now that tomorrow, which of course will be Thursday, I'm doing these videos on Wednesday. This will be the last day that I do 3 videos a day, at least for this week. I'm going to try to put out those videos I promised on, let's just say, the gun agenda on Friday and Saturday, and then the pop culture video on Sunday. Just much more long-form projects through the weekend, and we'll see how things go next week. But it's probably going to be 2 videos a day, once again, starting next week. I just figured I'd go ahead and give you guys a heads up before we get started going into this topic.
In Kansas City, after a black teenager, Ralph Yarl was shot by a white homeowner for ringing the wrong doorbell. Do you know what the original headline of the story was? Twitter saved the metadata, and it's still active right now. It says, Kansas City teen shot after entering wrong house. So what really happened? I think what happened is this kid.
Well, gang, the media continues to go out of their way to flip-flop on what is, in fact, actually a tragedy. However, we need to take a good look at exactly what's going on in the state of Missouri before we, let's just say, begin the whole race script thing. But then again, though, the media is already on that. All right, guys, now let's go ahead and get started. Now, before we dive into this, I want to let you guys know right now that this video right here will be in the description box of this video that you are seeing now. It explains a case that occurred back in 2022, State versus Straughter, which goes over the entire castle law. Remember, guys, the state of Missouri strengthened their castle law, and they strengthened their stand your ground laws, which, by the way, I think a lot of people already got some reporting wrong on this one, which I can understand why. But let me go ahead and say this right quick. A stand your ground law is basically a law that states that you don't have to retreat from someone who's attacking you. This right here is not a stand your ground law case. This right here is a castle doctrine case, meaning that obviously the individual was in his home, a domicile, so therefore he was actually protecting his property. And I already can hear somebody saying, wait a minute, he's a 16-year-old kid who just simply entered the wrong house. Don't worry, I'll get to that, because obviously this right here should not have happened the way it did, but obviously at the same exact time, when you actually look at the law, one would probably be inclined to believe that, yeah, there may not be anything that can be done about this, even though the 84-year-old individual has, in fact, turned himself in. This is obviously a tragedy. But then again, though, you do have those out there like Benjamin Krupp going out of their way to go ahead and start the race script and the whole lawsuit ordeal. Now, don't worry, we'll get to that here in a second. But let me go ahead and ask you guys a quick question. Why in the world would the state of Missouri strengthen not only its Second Amendment, why would the state of Missouri not only strengthen their Second Amendment, but why would they go out of their way to strengthen their stand your ground law, and why the hell would they go out of their way to strengthen their castle doctrine? Well, one guess.
High-powered rifle and wielding a pistol, in these now viral images, Mark and Patricia McCloskey looked ready for a gunfight as a protest moved through their mansion-lined St. Louis neighborhood.
Get the hell out of my neighborhood!
Now the well-known local attorneys are defending their actions.
There were people wearing body armor. One person pulled out some loaded pistol magazines and clicked them together and said, if you were next, we were threatened with our lives, threatened with a house burned down.
The incident unfolded Sunday as demonstrators marched to the mayor's nearby house to demand her resignation. This after she gave out names and addresses of demonstrators demanding police reform Friday on a Facebook Live video.
Private property, get home now!
The McCloskeys say tensions escalated when they were threatened by a fringe group.
As I said, this is private property.
Now, granted, this case is not the same as what happened in 2020. Also, something else too about the state of Missouri, they had another incident that occurred back in 2015. If you guys recall, it was the Michael Brown ordeal. Yes, there was that there, and there were the riots in Ferguson. There was all that stuff where BLM kind of got their let's just go ahead and say they kind of got their name. And of course, eventually you had Freddie Gray, you had Baltimore, you had all that stuff there. And you had the initial riots going into 2016. So you got to ask yourself a question. Why in the hell would the state of Missouri strengthen their stand your ground law? Well, obviously due to cases like this right here. Now, granted, somebody is going to come in the comment section and say he's a 16-year-old kid and he walked into a home, and I 100% agree with you that maybe it probably should not have gone this way, but here's the deal. The old man is actually justified under the law itself. Is it kind of screwed up that this happened? Is the boy entering with, let's just say, innocent intentions, that he actually ended up at the wrong place? Well, we need to let some more stuff come out before we actually get into that. Now, me personally, I'm going to go ahead and take it at face value. I'm not going to how do I say, dive any further into the intentions. But definitely the story continues to change, and it continues to change constantly, which kind of leads me to believe that, yeah, it's possible that there could be something else going on here. Now, guys, here's the original reporting from CNN, and let me go ahead and kind of show you what's kind of been going on since.
16-year-old Ralph Yarl was shot as he was trying to pick up his siblings last week. Police say Yarl accidentally went to the wrong address, where he was shot and seriously wounded by the homeowner. Officers arrived at the scene after a neighbor called 911 and took the homeowner immediately into custody.
Our heart goes out to the juvenile victim, and more than anything, to make sure that this child and this child's family knows that there are people working hard, a number of people working hard, to make sure there is justice for this person.
The homeowner, who has not been identified, was released after 24 hours pending further investigation. The police department says they're waiting to obtain a formal statement from the victim and further forensic evidence.
I want everyone to know that I'm listening, and I understand the concern that we are receiving from the community. The information that we have now, it does not say that it's racially motivated. That's still an active investigation. But as a chief of police, I do recognize the racial components of this case. I do recognize and understand the community's concern.
Yarl's aunt says her nephew loves music and is a section leader in his marching band. She says his goal is to attend Texas A&M University to study chemical engineering. Civil rights attorneys Lee Merritt and Benjamin Crump are representing the victim and his family and demanding swift action, and are calling the shooting horrendous and unjustifiable.
As a mother of 3 children, this enrages me.
And protesters gathering Sunday outside the home where Yarl was shot, demanding justice.
He is alive. He is healing. Yes. So I just want to tell you thank you for being here, because my nephew is alive.
Now, the homeowner was placed on a 24-hour hold. This is according to Missouri state law. The thing here is after those 24 hours, he either has to be charged or released. And prosecutors say they want more evidence. They want a further investigation. And that's why this homeowner was released. And it's also why so many people.
Let me say this one more time. This right here was obviously a tragedy. This kid is still alive, thank God. Is it a little bit effed up? Yes. However, the law does state that the man was justified. Now, granted, we're also been finding out, and like I said before, the media has been, been flip-flopping on the story like crazy, and we don't even know what the hell is really and truly going on. But what we do know is that there was actually a wrong turn. The guy got the road wrong and ended up turning into a house. GPS is always jacked up. I have a GPS myself in my phone. It gets things wrong from time to time, too. You cannot always rely upon that. So it seems to me like this right here, for the most part, on face value, was in fact an actual honest-to-God mistake. However, I do need to say this right here, and I'm probably going to repeat it again. 11 o'clock at night, 12 o'clock at night, if I am home, I'm home alone, I'm somewhat asleep, my judgment may be a little bit off if somebody knocks on my door. More than likely, I'm going to holler, hey man, who is it? If you don't respond, either way, it doesn't matter. I'm probably coming to that door armed or having something on me to defend myself with in case somebody tries to break in. God knows who the hell could be busting in. With all the burglaries going up and all the home invasions going up, I'm pretty sure that it sounds pretty reasonable that somebody would show up to the door, even though they did not have the best judgment in the world at that time to show up armed, ready to go in case somebody was probably coming in. It looks to me like it was an honest-to-God obvious mistake, but then once again, though, the race scripters are out here pumping up the narrative and probably going to sue the state of Missouri, which, by the way, they'll probably lose because the state's castle doctrine has been changed, mostly due to what I showed you guys earlier. Ferguson riots, of course, what happened in 2020. So I'm pretty sure you guys are getting the picture. If you're somebody who believes CNN, me personally, I take them with a grain of salt, especially given everything that happened in Obama's second term and everything that happened when Trump was in office. And all the stories, they ended up becoming lies, regardless whether it was the Covington case or the fact that they kind of leaned into the Kyle Rittenhouse ordeal until they finally realized that lying about crap could eventually get you sued. Yeah, I don't really take them that seriously. But then again, though, the next person that I'm about to bring up, I take him a little bit more serious because he's actually been proven to be a little bit more right, at least at a better number than what CNN has. But don't worry, we'll get to what Tim Pool had to say because he actually reported on this, and he's also the one who's been reporting how the media has been changing their story on this. Now, the thing you have to understand is this right here. In cases like this right here, like always, you need to allow the facts to come out first before you decide to put anything out there. You also need to have an actual detailed analysis of the law itself. The media a lot of times likes to go ahead and tell us what they think the law should be rather than what the law is. So basically the story here is that an 84-year-old man woke up in the middle of the night after roughly 10 p.m. Like I say, he's 84 years old, probably doesn't have the best judgment in the world, and he sees a silhouette of somebody standing right there in the door when trying to get in. So what does he do? He pulls a pistol, he shoots. Now, let me go ahead and say this real quick. If you come to my house late at night and I'm in bed and I'm awoken, chances are I'm probably going to grab something to protect myself with. It's common sense. The reason why is because I have no idea who the hell is at the door, and this person is not exactly announcing themselves. So yes, I'm probably going to want to defend my property and obviously defend myself. It is the right that I have. And according to Missouri state law, the man has the right to do so himself. But once again, we've got the race scripters out there. Now, guys, let me go ahead and play this right here because this right here is what kind of lets me think that, yeah, there may be a little bit more that's not being reported than what we've been led on to believe.
So what really happened? I think what happened is this kid, who seems like a good dude, went to the wrong house, rang the doorbell, and then tried to open the door. Unfortunately for him, he was trying to gain entrance to the wrong home. Perhaps he was going to open the screen door to knock, which is fairly normal. This 84-year-old man doesn't know this kid, doesn't recognize him, and sees someone trying to open his door after 10 p.m. An 84-year-old man has no way of protecting himself, and so he said, I can only make one move. He went all in. He made that bet. Lester said he was scared to death because of his inability to defend himself and clarified that shooting was the last thing he wanted to do. Darren Edwards, lead pastor of the United Believers Community Church, says the community is shocked by the actions that transpired against Yarl. The way we are told right now that this has happened, ringing a doorbell and instantly getting shot 2 times, is not how you want to look at your city. There are many things that I want to break down in this. End Wokeness tweeted, an old white man shoots a trespasser and immediately the media has a motive. A trans terrorist murders Christian kids and they pretend there's no motive, even though there's literally a manifesto. This is the reason why I highlighted first the story of the woman who was attacked. Why wasn't this story headline national news in the mouths of every pundit? Of course, it was talked about a little bit. Why wasn't this the top trending story? Conservatives, libertarians, and post-liberals need to stop letting the left dictate what the national news is. And they do it all the time. The left will come out and say, hey, everybody, here's our narrative. And then every conservative will come out and be like, wait, let's argue narrative. How about this, conservatives? Find any one of the other stories and highlight those. There's no reason to chase after their narrative on this one. And there's more. Andrew at Don't Walk Run says, I was told the shooter shot Ralph Yarl through the glass. It appears to me the glass in the exterior door is intact. It is. It is because it was replaced. There's a video going around of a news report where they outright said it got replaced.
In the neighborhood, we never have any incidents up here like that. I don't know anything about the circumstances, but it was.
Do you know the circumstances? 4 asked what happened. A man vacuums the front steps after replacing a glass door.
There it is. Okay. He was shot through the glass. That's fine.
I somewhat agree with Tim. I somewhat agree that this right here was probably an accident or an accidental ordeal. But then again, though, at the same exact time, with the way our media operates, I'm not entirely sure. You've got protest in that state. You've got protest in that area. This place has had a history of protesting over something that ended up not being fully accurate. Take, for example, the McCloskeys. The media pumped that whole thing up like just good old-fashioned old white man who, by the way, was a registered Democrat, had been voting Democrat his entire life, was simply defending his home and private property. Funny how they love to eat their own without actually getting the story, because they were taking advantage of the riots because people were marching into his yard, they were marching in his area. Obviously, he had a right to defend his home. Granted, at that time, the state castle law had not been strengthened. Then again, though, let's also not forget what happened in Ferguson. We were all told, hands up, don't shoot. Yet when you actually look at what happened, what really happened was that Michael Brown went for that officer's gun, got shot, took off, came back towards the officer, which, by the way, would give the officer the right to shoot him, because most law enforcement agencies have this little thing in their regulations where they say that if you try to grab an officer's gun, they can actually put you down for that right there alone, because the minute you grab an officer's gun, guess what? You now become a deadly threat. Okay, if you guys kind of pick up on what I'm saying, it's kind of how the law works. And in this case right here, it looks like, the law, even though this right here is tragic, the law just may be looking at you and saying there really isn't anything we can do, because the man may in fact be 100% justified. Now, is this right here not screwed up? It is definitely screwed up. 16-year-old kid was hit, and we have no idea the real reason why, whether he was trying to enter the place illegally or if it was just an honest-to-God mistake. I'm leaning towards a mistake at this moment in time, but then again, though, with the way the media is reporting things, I'm not entirely sure that we can actually trust that. So let's let all the facts come out in this case before we jump to conclusions. But then again, though, Benjamin Crump and all the race scripters, they kind of sort of already done that. Guys, John Claymore here. If you like this content, please hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sign up in the comment section, and I'll see you guys later.